Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope you guys liked my videos. This is a story about what if Naruto was a Super Saiyan. Bardock is about to die, but a dimensional rift when the Yondaime summons Death God the Shinigami pulls him into the Naruto world and onto Kyuubi's back moments before the ceiling. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and leave a like and check the description for the creator of this great fanfic and support them for making this fanfic. Now let's start. Chapter 1 Saiyan Transformation. Bardock could feel the intense heat from the giant ball of energy Frieza had unleashed on his home planet, as he could feel death ready to claim him, but even as life left his body, the Saiyan warrior could only smile with joy knowing his son would rise beyond his own limitations, and avenge their race. It would be ironic when that day happened, as Frieza's fear of the Saiyan race being his own undoing, and at the hands of Bardock's own son. His third-class Saiyan of a son would one day achieve the ability to become the Super Saiyan of legend that was coveted beyond anything else among his people. It would be glorious. I just wish I would be there to see it. Good luck, my son, thought Bardock, as he closed his eyes, and let death take him with a smile on his face. Or at least, what he thought was death. Elsewhere, another dimension, the Yondaime Hokage had just battled Uchiha Madara, freed the Kyuubi from the man's control, and called forth the Shinigami to seal the fox within his own son. Something he had no intention of doing when Kushina's pregnancy hit its apex and the seal holding the Kyuubi weakening to the point where the fox might break free. Minato didn't know how Madara was alive, much less how he knew where Kushina's hideout was during the last few hours of the pregnancy prior to his interventions, but the man had just about screwed up everything for the Hokage, and his village. Now here he was using his own sealing methods, which were in truth second best when compared to his wife's own, which would bind the fox to his son, and turning Naruto into a Jinchuriki. Minato was not naive to believe the village would see his son like the hero he wanted the boy to be, as Jinchuriki were hated for what they held, ironically by the very people that made them Jinchuriki in the first place, and yet the Hokage did not want this for his son. The original plan was for Naruto to receive Kyuubi like his wife did at a much older time when Kushina herself could not hold the fox and let the woman use her own sealing methods to transfer the Nine Tails to Naruto. But not everything goes according to plan. It's time, mortal. Say goodbye. I have things to do, said the Shinigami, as he saw the blonde man put his son down on the ground, the sealing finally complete, and wished there was some way the boy could be protected from such a harsh life. Strange how during the entire fight with the fox after Madara fled, as Minato summoned the death god, no one saw the bleeding body fall from the sky from the very real the spiritual entity came from, and land right on the Kyuubi's back. Like a tiny flea amongst its fur, but barely felt by the large mass of demonic chakra, and was sealed into Naruto too. Goodbye son. I'm sorry for this. I never wanted this for you. Same with your mother. Whatever you may think of us in the future, I will understand, and won't hate you for hating me if the village does what I think they will. All I can ask of you is to endure what they dish out and know your mother she'd tell you to return it back 1,000-fold, said Minato laughing knowing his wife would say that to her son. With that being said, the Shinigami took the soul of Namikaze Minato, but before leaving for its own real, the death god looked back at Naruto, and sensed something else upon its entry to this realm had happened. Something about the boy's energy had suddenly changed, but was restrained by the seal with his mark, and even in part by the fox itself. The Shinigami could only conclude that whatever this something was, it was not part of the boy, not connected to Kyuubi, and not connected to this very dimension. The death god had always been told by the other powers above that such a contract was dangerous to have since it tore partially into the dimensional fabric, risking something from another place, from another dimension from getting through, and entering this dimension. Now it was starting to suspect Kami and Yami were right. Of course, they were always right when it came to matters like that since they had helped the death god make such a contract with the mortals of this village. In the name of balance they said. Needed to be put in place to counter a forbidden jutsu that cheated the Shinigami out of a few of the souls in his deathly realm from staying there for an unknown amount of time. However, the Shinigami could not remove this unknown entity from the boy, as it would mean removing the seal, and freeing the Kyuubi again. The Shinigami didn't want that, as it had enough paperwork on its hands already just from the sealing alone, and didn't want to make things even more complicated than it already was. Let the mortals deal with this situation and if it bit them in the ass. Oh well. More souls for its realm. Inside baby Naruto, Bardock opened his eyes, as pain shot through his body, and wondered if this place was hell for all the evil he had done for Frieza. Not that he probably didn't deserve it. Frieza had attacked so man-worlds and the Saiyans had been at the forefront of it for a long time, getting stronger, and done what most of the tyrant's normal army couldn't. Why is it so empty? Surely hell doesn't have a floor reserved entirely just for me, said Bardock to himself, looking left and right before he felt the ground around him shift. Who is there? Show yourself, said a deep voice, as Bardock felt himself being moved left and right along the tall red grass he was feeling underneath his broken body. I would like to, but my body is badly beaten, and I can't move, said Bardock while he heard a deep growling sound and felt something very powerful was underneath what he thought was the ground when in fact it was something very much alive. Get off my body, said the voice, as the ground shifted further around Bardock, and the Saiyan soon found himself falling off the fur onto the hard wet ground. Before staring up at angry crimson eyes that burned with an intense fire at him and a giant clawed appendage ready to end his already fading life. Sorry. Not my intention. Where are we? Said Bardock, as he stared at this vulpine-like creature, and knew the classification of animal this was since he had seen them before on various planets. Of course none of them were this big or powerful. We have been sealed inside this human child. He's the son of our sealer and are stuck here until the boy's death, said Kyuubi, as she watched the Saiyan look around with some effort, and saw his body was in fact injured to near-death circumstances. The only reason he was still alive was because time had no meaning here and thus stalled his death from happening. I don't know, suppose healing me would be out of the question. Do you even have the power to heal me? Said Bardock, as he heard the fox growl at him, and felt the Kyuubi's power surge around her before entering his body. The only reason I choose to heal you, monkey, is because you might have some use for my vessel in the future, and I am in need of some company, said Kyuubi, as she saw his injuries heal, but even then it appeared that his body had been in a cross between life and death before even being unintentionally part of the sealing. Thanks. I feel weird. Like I am alive, yet in a way I'm dead, and feel like I'm being drained with each passing second, said Bardock, as he got off the ground, and saw the golden bars before heading over to them with the feeling of his energy leaving for that area. This seal was designed to drain me of my power and give it to my vessel. Since you are here with me, the same applies to you, and our shared vessel will no doubt absorb traits from yourself in the process. Eventually, you will be fully absorbed into him like I will, and will be no longer our own individual selves, said Kyuubi, though her tone became sad near the end. So the boy will inherit the spirit of the Saiyan race. Interesting, said Bardock, as he saw the fox look at him now with a raised eyebrow, and he explained things to her that shocked the vixen before she in turn explained things to him about the world he was now in. Your race sounds powerful. It's actually a shame they were destroyed, said Kyuubi, as she saw him nod, and look past the bars to the boy on the other side asleep. I want more than just the spirit of the Saiyans to live on outside of my son in my own dimension. Don't get me wrong, he'll clean up the mess we made in serving Frieza, but I want to start things off anew, and bring about a newer version of the Saiyan race. Is it possible for me to give him Saiyan blood through this seal? To turn him into a Saiyan, said Bardock, as he saw Kyuubi think things over, and run a claw under her fury chin. Possibly. This seal is designed to absorb energy and blood does have energy. It will take some time, some tinkering, and effort for well over a decade. However, due to the nature of the seal, it may not manifest itself until later, and only if the seal is somehow altered so the absorption process of our energy stops long enough to let any alterations we make to the body become active, said Kyuubi, as she saw Bardock nod, and look at the boy that would be his new legacy. I want him to embrace the way of the warrior, but not enough that he becomes like we were under Frieza's rule, and still have the potential to keep a level head. When the time comes, this boy will achieve a power that will rival the Super Saiyan of legend, and all his enemies will tremble in fear, said Bardock, as he saw Kyuubi nod, and grin a huge grin at the implications. A vessel worthy of both of us. Though I should warn you in advance, this village will hurt him because of me, and stunt his growth in the process. He should also be allowed to absorb your mentality just to be on the safe side, said Kyuubi, as she saw him nod, and then look at his own tail for a second in thought. Can we also give him a tail? A Saiyan tail, said Bardock, as he turned to face Kyuubi, and the fox seemed to consider it. It's possible. I can also purge the weakness your race possesses should someone grab it, said Kyuubi before she blushed at seeing Bardock's lack of clothing and was only in a tattered loincloth that did little in terms of hiding the Saiyan's manhood, and made a mental note to make sure the boy inherited that too. And make it grow back, said Bardock while Kyuubi nodded and trying to focus on the other impressive thing around the Saiyan's waist. Do you have to ask? Said Kyuubi while Bardock smirked at her. No, but I just like to make sure. This is going to take a lot of trial and error on our part, said Bardock while Kyuubi scoffed. That it will. Now let's begin. We have work to do, said Kyuubi while looking away from him and fighting back the blood that wanted to leak out of her nose. Forest of Death. 12 years later, Zaku had just obliterated the little cave-dwelling Leafs Team 7 had been holed up in before Sasuke was on him, and the only one among the cell still in it was Naruto. The boy had been unconscious due to Orochimaru hitting him with the 5 elemental seal and then throwing the Jinchuriki into a tree where unconsciousness claimed him. For the other Leaf Shinobi around Team 7 to witness the event, they felt death had just claimed Naruto too, and there were mixed feelings all around. Some were shocked, glad, angry, and uncaring to the fact Naruto had been blown away by the sound shinobi. Come on Sakura. We need to leave if we're going to make it to the central tower, said Sasuke while Sakura nodded, but looked back at where Naruto's supposed grave was, and saw the other shocked faces around them. You can't just leave him buried under that. He's your teammate, said Ino, as she saw Neji shrug since it was no skin off his back while Tenten wanted to help, and Lee already digging for him. Stop Lee. We have our own objective to complete. Leave the fool in the ground. At least his body will provide nourishment for the worms in the ground, said Neji, as he walked away, and Lee scowled at him. He is a Konoha shinobi. If you were in his place, would you not wish someone to dig your body out, and give a proper burial, said Lee with Neji scoffing at him. Of course, but only because I am a Hyuga of noble blood, and not some commoner like him. Now move, said Neji before walking away and ignored the dirty looks from both his teammates. We can't just leave him here, can we? Said Choji while Shikamaru ran his hand through his hair. Troublesome. As much as I hate to say this, we have to leave him behind. It's not that I want to do that, but we have to complete our mission and get to the central tower, said Shikamaru while Ino became sad and Choji just scowled, though it was aimed more at Team 7 leaving than at his fellow teammate. We'll tell the Hokage when we get there. He can send Anbu and dig out his body, said Ino, knowing the old Kage would need to know about this. Doesn't make it any better. Hinata is going to be crushed by this, said Choji, knowing the girl really had it bad for Naruto. Yeah, this really sucks, said Shikamaru while looking at where Naruto was buried and wished he could do something. Come on. We have to get to the tower, said Ino sadly while they left. Inside Naruto's mind, contrary to what everyone thought, Naruto was not dead, and was currently buried in the ground while his body went under a rapid change. The Shinigami seal had been stopped in its function in absorbing Kyuubi's chakra, but at the same time had stopped restraining Bardock's powers, and alterations he along with the fox had set into motion shortly after being sealed into him. The Shinigami seal had restrained all the alterations the two had set up for the boy to one day unleash, as they suspected it would when they first started, and tried to figure a way around it. The only option before them was to have Naruto come into his mind to tamper with it, but the boy had no way of doing it, and neither prisoner wanted to try, knowing how loyal the boy was to the Hokage. Telling the old man would just cause more harm than good ones, and the last thing they wanted was for the seal to be altered in a way that wasn't in their favor. When Naruto tapped into the fox's power back in Wave Country, it allowed the groundwork they had first set up to make the changes possible to form, and had he held out a little bit longer in using the Kyuubi's chakra could have unlocked the power of the Saiyan in him. Orochimaru's intervention, however, had turned out to be the best thing that happened to Naruto, and it was finally time to show this world the might of the Saiyan race. This act by the Sannin would allow Bardock to walk through the caged bars, merge his form with the unconscious Naruto, and become a hybrid of sorts in spirit while being a full-blooded Saiyan that would be unmatched. The understanding of energy, the ability to fly, and how to use it many useful ways. It's time, Kyuubi. It's been fun, said Bardock, as he had a great time with the vixen, and she also enjoyed his company. That it has Saiyan, said Kyuubi while seeing Bardock leave the bars and stare at the unconscious form of Naruto before he vanished into the boy. It's funny. This would be the second time I died. At least I'm going out on my terms this time, and in a way, I'm being reborn again. Both of us are, said Bardock before his entire form was gone from sight. And in the process covered the dark, dank sewer for a mind in a great light, and power that shook everything down to its foundation. Real world, the grave of Uzumaki Naruto exploded with power, as the boy it belonged to rose from the ground, hovering with silver-colored energy covering his body, and the changes being made. Bones broke before mending, tendon, muscles, and ligaments tore all over with the boy's healing soon after. All of Naruto's senses had become enhanced beyond that of an average human and even developed the ability to sense other people's power without the need for a scouter like Bardock had done in the past. Last, but certainly not least in the slightest, Naruto had gained a Saiyan tail, and the knowledge behind it. With a mighty yell that shook the ground, Naruto unleashed the power of his newfound heritage, and turned the area around him into a wasteland that went on for what seemed like several miles. Looking at himself, Naruto saw his attire, which had been appalling to the eyes, had been practically obliterated not only because of unleashing his power, but due to his increase in height, increase in muscle mass, and in general having outgrown them. All he had won was his boxers, and even they were feeling a little tight, and a new pair would of course be required to obtain. Preferably an adult pair designed for someone with his uniqueness. This is unreal, and yet, it feels so natural. Like it's been a part of me since I was born, said Naruto to himself, as he flexed his hands while looking at them, and then looked at where he sensed the different levels of power heading in one direction. The central tower. As he came to terms with this new change, Naruto also remembered the voices he heard while buried underneath that pile of rubble, and how his team left him in his grave. The boy growled in anger at their stupidity, and even more at the one boy named Neji for even having the nerve to call him a commoner. Him. A Saiyan. It was wait. How did he know the term? Why did he call himself that? Shaking his head, Naruto decided to hold off on understanding this for later, and decided to do a little hunting for what he needed to pass this test. Searching for the nearest power level, Naruto took to the air, and flew through the trees before stopping quickly to look down at a clearing where 3 Iwa shinobi had set up camp. What the hell? Said one Iwa shinobi, as he looked up, and pointed to Naruto while the other 2 Iwa shinobi jumped away. Hello maggots. I need your stuff, said Naruto while descending to the ground, and the trio of Iwa shinobi just laughed at him. Or what? Look at you. You have no weapons, you're all alone, and in your underwear. You are a pathetic excuse for a shinobi, said the leader of the trio while he along with the other 2 just laughed. You're right. Well, 3 out of 4 anyway. I was a pathetic excuse for a shinobi, but then again my training was minimal due to the lack of instruction by most of my teachers on account of them never really liking me, and acting like the arrogant fools they serve. However, the problem with the other 3 can be corrected, and solution to that lies with you 3 giving me what I want, said Naruto with the leader of the trio of Iwa shinobi laughing at him. And what do we get in exchange? We don't exactly swing that way, said one of the Iwa genin behind the leader. Good, because I don't either. As for you get in exchange. You get nothing. Absolutely nothing, said Naruto before he vanished and reappeared in front of the leader. With his right arm in the Iwa shinobi's torso. What? You? Said the Iwa genin, as he saw Naruto grin at him, and sensed his 2 comrades frozen in fear. Since you asked me so nicely, I'll tell you what I am. I'm a Saiyan warrior. And you are dead, said Naruto before removing his arm from the genin, and the Iwa shinobi fell to the ground. Bastard, said the next Iwa genin, who was going through hand signs, and was about to unleash an earth jutsu before his head was blown up when hit with a ball of silver energy that splattered his brain all over the place. You're next, said Naruto with the Iwa shinobi waving his hands and getting on his knees to show he surrendered. Wait. I give up. I have what you need, just don't kill me, said the Iwa genin, as he threw over a bag with the scrolls, weapons, and some extra clothing he had in the event they were needed. That's good. Thank you for your generous donation. However, if I let you live, then you will report this to your cage, and most likely make me a target in the future. I can't have that, said Naruto before he shot another blast of energy at the Iwa genin and blew him up. He was on his way. Central Tower several days later. Congratulations to all of you, who made it this far, and welcome to the next stage of the Chunin exams. Normally we would give you all a month to prepare for the finals, but given how there are so many of you, we have to go through preliminary rounds to thin out the ranks, and ensure only the best from each village advances to the finals, said the Sandaime Hokage while seeing one person he wished was here to compete in the prelims. Uzumaki Naruto. Team 10 had come to him after his arrival and immediately informed him of what had happened with Team 7 along with how they left the boy buried in the dirt. For all they knew, the boy was alive, but just buried underneath that rubble, and yet the genin teams there had chosen, some with reluctance, the mission over a comrade. Well, except for Guy's one student, who actually tried digging for Naruto, but then obeyed the acting squad leader of the team, and headed for the tower to complete the exams. Hyuga Hinata could be seen in a state of complete depression, as she had come to the conclusion that Naruto had fallen in the forest of death when he wasn't seen among the other genin there, and yet strangely enough she glared at Sasuke along with Zaku for their hand in his death. Zaku for the killing and Sasuke's disregard for rescuing Naruto in the off chance he might be alive despite the attack that buried him in the ground. I'm sorry Naruto-kun. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you how I felt, thought Hinata, as she was in an emotional state between sorrow and anger at what had happened to him. If anyone here feels unable to compete, please raise your hands, and leave for a different section of the tower where a team of shinobi will escort you back into the village, said the Hokage, as he saw some of the shinobi fidget a little, and Kabuto looking to raise his hand. Pathetic. Giving them a chance to back out and even worse is them taking it. Where is your pride in being the best of your village? Said a new voice, as a figure walked into the room, and gained the attention, and many were shocked to see it was Uzumaki Naruto. Or rather what was the new version of Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto was wearing black shinobi pants, a muscle shirt, had gauntlets on both hands he had gotten off of the trio of shinobi from AIM, and steel-toed combat boots from a large genin from Grass Village. He didn't have a kunai or shuriken pouch with him, but rather two medium bags in each hand, and a fur-like belt wrapped around his waist. On his head was a leaf shinobi headband, but it was pretty beat up, and looked ready to fall apart at any second. Naruto, said the Hokage with the boy smirking at him. What? You were expecting Kyuubi? Said Naruto with a grin, and many of the adults in the room went pale at the mention of the fox. You're alive, said Sasuke in disbelief while Zaku and his teammates looked like they were seeing a ghost. You sound surprised. Then again, you along with the bitch there left me buried in the ground, and didn't even bother trying to dig me out. Had to do it myself, said Naruto while his eyes scanned every genin in the room and gauging their power. You should have stayed there, said Sasuke while sneering at Naruto. And you should have grown a spine when fighting the snake man in the forest of death instead freezing up while on the brink of wetting yourself, said Naruto with Sasuke now snarling at him. You think you're better than me. I'm an Uchiha. An elite, said Sasuke, as he turned to face Naruto while the boy smirked at him, and the Uchiha was getting angrier with each passing second. Really? I saw you ready to hand over your scroll for a chance to flee. You had no real guarantee the man would even let you walk away, and yet you gambled the second he was ready to tear you apart. I stood my ground. I fought and I made him work for his victory. With you. He barely even tried, said Naruto before turning his gaze to the Hokage and walking towards him while every genin within 3 feet gave the boy more than enough space. Naruto, I'm sorry to tell you this, but I can't have you participate in the preliminaries due to being late, and have you sit on the sidelines, said the Hokage while Naruto narrowed his eyes at him. Really? Because if the Uchiha had been in my place, you would have let him participate without question, and quite frankly, I'm tired of your cowardice, said Naruto while the Hokage's eyes widened in shock. Watch your mouth, brat, said Ibiki while Naruto's eyes looked at him. Why? Because it's true. Not that it matters. I've more than qualified with the scrolls that I need in this bag, said Naruto, as he tossed the one in his right hand over to the Hokage, and it spilled open to reveal 16 scrolls with half being heaven with the other half being earth. How did you get so many? Said Anko, as she looked from the scrolls on the floor to Naruto, and the boy raised another bag. This one slightly stained in blood. How do you think? Said Naruto, as he tossed the other bag underhanded to land right next to its brother, and the headbands from shinobi from different villages came spilling out of it. Most of them having been stained with the blood of their owners. You killed all these genin, said the Hokage seeing the boy smirk. Not right away. I asked them nicely for their scrolls. It's not my fault they chose to say no. Now do I qualify to participate or not? Said Naruto with his smirk never leaving him. Hokage-sama, the boy doesn't appear to be unstable, but the fact he's killed so many in such a short time when his records indicate otherwise concerns me, and his sudden look being different is not helping, said Ibiki in a whispered voice to the Hokage. Let him participate, Ibiki. The boy's right. If the Uchiha had been in his place, we would have let him, and no one would complain, said the Sandaime while Naruto just kept on smirking at him. Get in line with the others, Gaki, said Ibiki after giving the Hokage a nod. I knew you would see things my way, said Naruto before walking back to the others and standing in a line while standing behind a heavily blushing Hinata. Naruto-kun standing right behind me. Don't faint. Don't faint, thought Hinata, as she felt his powerful aura, and it was overwhelming to say the least. I can't believe that's Naruto. He's so different. Not to mention he's kind of hot now. No. No. Do not think like that, thought Tenten, as she saw him cross his arms in front of his chest, and couldn't help admire his muscled body. That's the brat we first met when coming here to the Leaf. What did he do? Unlock a bloodline or something? Thought Tamari, as she had to admit, the blonde now had quite the form, and was an improvement over the body he had before today. How did he get like that? Did the Kyuubi have a hand in this? Thought all the adults from Konoha while those not from the village were looking at Naruto with curiosity. And so the preliminaries started with names coming up on a hidden screen that would reveal who would be fighting who. Sasuke fought one of Kabuto's teammates while the glasses-wearing spy of Orochimaru had quit and chose to ignore Naruto's taunting about him being a coward. Of course, Naruto knew the boy was not what he appeared, as the instincts of a Saiyan, and the memories of what he recalled from his interactions with Kabuto had made the boy suspect something was off. The Uchiha was victorious in his match, but just barely, and the boy had been taken away by Kakashi to seal away the curse seal that Orochimaru gave him. Next up was the boy Naruto had met earlier wearing makeup and fighting Kabuto's secondary teammate with the ability to bend his body all over the place. The boy from Suna, who went by the name of Kankuro, turned out to be a puppet, and the real one was hiding in the white wrappings where everyone else thought the puppet had been. Then two shinobi from Sound tried their hands next, each one facing off against Leaf Shinobi, with Zaku losing to Shino and Kin losing to Shikamaru. Ino and Sakura had their match, but it ended with a double KO with neither girl being the victor while their rivalry put to an end, and their friendship restored. Then came Naruto's match, against Inuzuka Kiba. Alright. We got luck and faced a weakling. Come on Akamaru, let's win this one. Akamaru, said Kiba seeing the dog shake his head no and looking afraid of Naruto. Your dog is smart. He knows not to mess with someone higher up on the food chain, said Naruto, as he easily floated up, and landed in the arena below while shocking just about everyone seeing him do it. Shut up. Just because you know a trick or two doesn't make you better than me, said Kiba, as he leapt off the rail, and landed a few feet from Naruto. Oh, I know a lot more than just a trick or two, Kiba. You have no idea what I know, said Naruto, as he unwrapped his tail from his waist, and shocked the hell out of the people around him further when they saw it was in fact part of him. What the hell is that? Said Kiba seeing the tail, and it was making a lot of people aside from himself very nervous. Do you need glasses? It's my tail. You got a problem with it? Said Naruto seeing how freaked out the boy was. Hell yeah, I got a problem with it. Humans don't have tails, Naruto. I'm pretty sure that was covered in our biology classes at the academy, said Kiba seeing Naruto let out a chuckle. Then I guess I'm no longer human. Perhaps I'm something more, said Naruto, as he grinned further, and his tail was moving wildly behind him. Something more. You're a freak of nature, Naruto. That is what you are, said Kiba seeing Naruto scowl at him. I like the tail, said Hinata to herself, but let out and squeak when Naruto turned to look at her with a raised eyebrow, and was surprised he heard her. Thanks, Hinata-chan. At least I know there is at least one person in Konoha that likes all of the different parts of me, said Naruto, making the girl blush further since she had seen every part of him with her eyes at one point during the written part of the exams with her eyes since she had used them to cheat and had seen that part of him down there. Look at that blush. She's done something naughty. Such a bad girl. Maybe I should try corrupting her under Ker-chan's nose, thought Anko, as she had an idea on how to do that, and it involved Hinata looking at Naruto with those all-seeing eyes. Hey. Focus on me and not her, said Kiba angrily while Naruto just smirked. Why? She's much better looking than you. Smells better too. Incidentally, when was the last you took a bath, or shower? Said Naruto while Hinata fainted with a full-on blush at hearing how he liked the sight and smell of her body. Kurenai scowled at Naruto while Anko was laughing her ass off. Shut up. You think you're so great, but you're just a weak wannabe shinobi, who can't even perform a simple clone, and failed the academy 3 times because of it, said Kiba with a grin on his face while Naruto's face became one with anger. Probably because the teachers knew my output of energy was so high no form of control would allow me to perform one properly. Instead of teaching me an alternative, they felt it necessary to keep such information out of my reach, and silently laugh at my failures. Of course, it's much better than yours since they only let you pass so they wouldn't have to smell you for another year, and spray for fleas every week, said Naruto while Kiba growled at him. Oh, you are so dead. Let's get this fight started, said Kiba, as he charged towards Naruto with the intent of taking his head off, and his aim was true. Had Naruto not moved his head to the right, kneed Kiba right the gut with enough force to send him flying back, and hitting the wall with enough velocity that it collapsed upon impact. You missed and I win. Next, said Naruto before he floated back up to the railing and sat down on the edge of it. Impressive display of power Naruto-san, said Shino while his bugs were going crazy inside his body and telling him the boy's power was insane. Thanks Shino. Do you feel any kind of anger at me for knocking your teammate out? Said Naruto seeing Shino shake his head no. Kiba was fighting an opponent he couldn't win against and dug a deep hole for himself by insulting you in order to compensate for his own feelings of fear, said Shino with Naruto nodding. Too much pride in the belief you're strong caused one to not see the truth right in front of us. It's not healthy, said Naruto while he looked at the screen and heard the gasp from Hinata at seeing the names on it. Hyuga Hinata vs Hyuga Neji, no. Not that, thought Hinata, as she looked from the screen to her cousin, and he was smirking at her. It's time to put Hinata-sama in her place and show her crush the difference between us, thought Neji, as he went to the arena floor, ignoring Guy's words of warning to not make this personal, and got ready for his fight with his cousin. Do your best Hinata, said Shino seeing Hinata look at him, then Kurenai, who nodded in agreement, and then Naruto giving her a thumbs up with a smirk on his face. I will, said Hinata, as she made her way down, and faced Neji. Do you think she can win? Said Asuma while walking over to Kurenai. She's got confidence issues, but when push comes to shove, I'm hoping Hinata can rise above this, and show her true potential, said Kurenai, as she tried to help the girl, but it was hard considering Hinata's father, and the Hyuga clan in general were not what you would call a positive influence. Quite the opposite actually. You should give up Hinata-sama. The Chunin exams is not a place for one so spoiled like yourself. You have a duty to be the heiress of the Hyuga clan. Just give up and live a life without burdens aside from childbirth, said Neji while getting many glares from those in the room with the majority of them being female. Don't say that. I'm N not SS spoiled. I'm H here to prove I have changed, said Hinata seeing her cousin snarl with his eye active. Changed. You're stuttering. Your eyes move left and right with uncertainty. You will never change Hinata-sama. Fate cannot be changed. It will forever be your destiny to be weak, said Neji seeing Hinata shivering at his harsh words. Crunch. Hey Hyuga. The one with long hair, said Naruto called from above them after putting his fist through the railing. What do you want commoner? Said Neji while turning around to stare at Naruto. First, if you call me commoner one more time, I'm going to rip your skull open using your hair, and then rip out the tiny organ you call a brain. Second, don't take the coward's way out in making her submit by intimidation, and through words no less. Such a way is a coward's way, said Naruto seeing Neji looking ready to spit fire from his eyes if he had the ability. No one asked you, fool, said Neji while finding his eyes were hurting from using his eyes while in Naruto's direction. Hinata, ignore your idiot cousin, and fight him to the very end. You want to prove to everyone that you have changed. That's how you do it. All your strength. All your power. Everything you've got. Do not submit, said Naruto while Hinata looked up at him in wonder and then back at Neji with a fire in her eyes that wasn't there before. I'm ready Neji. Let's fight, said Hinata, as she activated her eyes, and got ready to do battle with her cousin. So that's how it is Hinata-sama. You look at him, hear his inspiring words, and all of a sudden you have a spine. Well, it's time to break it, and break you with this newfound strength right in front of him, thought Neji, as he got into his gentle fist stance, and it was clear as day that the battle was on. And sadly, Hinata lost. Still, Hinata had done well holding her own against Neji, who had better training, more confidence, knew things that she did not, and was aiming to kill the Hyuga girl. Hinata used her skills to disable her opponents. It wasn't in her heart to fight, much less kill her own blood, despite that person being a total asshole at the moment. Neji, however, did have it in his heart though, and proved it when he moved in for the kill when Hinata continued to rise to fight against him. Despite her injuries, Hinata endured his words, his assault, and used some truth-filled words of her own to hit a very sore spot in his heart to provoke the attempt of killing the Hyuga girl. Even then, Hinata stood her ground, ready to face the end without fear, knowing she had given her all, and not afraid to die with that fact seen by everyone today. However, just because Neji had aimed to kill, it didn't mean the Hyuga would succeed in hitting his target, as 3 Junin intercepted him, and prevented the kill. Neji did not like their intervention, stating they were only protecting the main family from shame of losing one of its members, but Guy had shaken his head no when his student looked at him, and pointed to where Hinata had fallen after being unable to stand. Naruto was kneeling beside Hinata, his right index finger caressing her face, as blood was leaking out of her mouth, and was looking back at him. Hinata knew that if this was her time, then it would be a time where she had shown courage, had shown it right in front of Naruto, and the boy she wanted to notice her was noticing her. Did I do well? Said Hinata while enjoying the feeling of Naruto touch. Extremely. Without a doubt you've changed and for the better. Stay on this course and become the warrior I know you can be, Hinata-chan, said Naruto, seeing the girl's smile increase even when the medics took her away while the Uzumaki made a mental note to visit her in the future. You should just ignore her. She's a loser. Just like you. Don't think because you beat a shinobi from a clan doesn't make you better than what you already are. A loser will be a loser no matter what. Fate is fate, said Neji while watching Naruto watch Hinata until the girl was out of sight and in an instant no one could track. The Uzumaki was right in his face. Care to repeat that again, little man, said Naruto in a deadly voice, his eyes staring right at Neji, filled with energy and power that made a shiver run up the Hyuga's spine. Naruto, said Asuma in a warning tone, knowing that if the boy did anything, he would be disqualified, and thus make Neji even happier. Along with a lot of other people in the village that didn't want him to advance. I said a loser will be a loser no matter what. Fate is fate, said Neji, though there was less conviction in his voice and a hint of fear. No matter what, huh? Fate is fate. Well, you better pray to whatever form fate takes and pray that in the Chunin exam finals that one of us is not facing the other. For if does come down to that, I'm going to show you just what I can do. You think that win over Kiba was fluke? It wasn't. I wanted to get that match over with because I couldn't stand the sight of him and most of the people in this room that cater to the Uchiha's every whim or desire. Sasuke thinks he's untouchable because of his bloodline. You think similar yet slightly different thoughts because of your bloodline being that of a Hyuga and thus are protected politically with friends in high places. However, in the Chunin exam finals, you will not be protected, and I will show you a fury that no human being has ever before witnessed. Even Kyuubi's power over a decade ago will be tame compared to me, and you will know what it means to fear this so-called loser, after I kick your ass, said Naruto and let out a growl that was not human before walking away from the stunned Hyuga. The next match came in the form of Tenten fighting Temari from Suna, with both girls becoming excited despite everything that had just happened. Tenten had unleashed her weapons on Temari, but the Suna Kunoichi was too much for the Leaf Kunoichi, and the wind jutsu she used to knock away the projectile weapons. Temari then added insult to injury with her fan being used to hurt Tenten in the spinal column and further reinforced the fact that Suna came to the exams to win. Hurting people was just a bonus for them. This was further proven by Sabaku no Gaara fighting Rock Lee, with the latter fighting with everything he had and more so when opening almost all of the 8 celestial gates. By this point, Kakashi had come back, missing the fight Naruto had with Kiba, and saw things with his Sharingan eye in order to use what he saw to help train Sasuke. Sadly for Lee, his opponent was a Jinchuriki like Naruto, and had more control over his power than Naruto ever did with Kyuubi. Not surprising since Gaara's seal was designed for that purpose in being weak enough for the boy to use his demon's power to control sand in such a deadly manner. It was also made to be the ultimate shield given how Shukaku was the weakest of the 9 and thus had to think, despite being crazy, on how to fight defensively over that of offense means like the other Biju did. "I will not be denied," said Gaara, as he commanded his sand to rise, and move like a serpent towards Rock Lee trying to crawl away from him. "Yes. Yes, you will be denied," said Naruto, as he appeared seemingly out of nowhere, his arm outstretched, hand covered in energy. Less than 6 inches of space was all there was between the orb of power, and Gaara's face with the red-haired boy looking right at the energy in Naruto's hands. What?" said Gaara, as he could believe what was in front of him, and stared into the blonde's blue eyes burning with power. "I owe him. You kill him. I kill you. Decide," said Naruto coldly while Guy had appeared between the sand and Lee. "Very well. Proctor, I doubt my opponent can continue fighting me, and ask you to call the match with me being the victor," said Gaara, as he called his sand back to him, and the proctor did just that. "Guy, tell Lee my debt to him is paid. Out of all the rookies there, he was the only one among them to try, and dig me out," said Naruto before he cancelled his attack and saw the Junin nod in understanding. Honorable warriors pay back their debts. After that, the matches pretty much neared the end, as Choji faced Dosu, and the latter won by putting the former to sleep using those metal bracers on his arms to emit sound vibrations that attack the sensory part of the brain responsible for controlling when a person sleeps. With the preliminaries now over, all that remained was to determine who would face who in 1 month's time, and in front of the public masses. First match. Uzumaki Naruto vs Hyuga Neji. Second match. Sabaku no Gaara vs Uchiha Sasuke. Third match. Kinuta Dosu vs Nara Shikamaru. Fourth match. Aburame Shino vs Sabaku no Konkuro. Fifth match. Sabaku no Tamari vs winner of fourth match. These are the matches that will take place in 1 month. "Train well," said the Sandame while making a motion for Kakashi to keep Naruto back to answer some questions. With that said, the contestants left with their senseis with the exception of Naruto, and Sakura since Kakashi stayed behind while the pink-haired girl left with the others. As for Naruto, he was told by Kakashi to stay, and answer some questions the Hokage might have for him. "What do you want?" said Naruto with the Sandame looking at him with a frown, and so did Kakashi. "Naruto, be more respectful to the Hokage," said Kakashi since this was a serious matter that could impact Naruto's life in the future. "What respect? I don't respect people who have replaced their warrior spirit with that of a coward's, and would play politician," said Naruto seeing the Sandame's eyes narrow at the accusation. "Naruto," said Kakashi sternly. "Shut up. Don't you dare try to reprimand me, you hypocrite. You think I don't see your actions in favoring the Uchiha since our team was put together. Giving him extra training while I and the pink-haired Uchiha fangirl do chakra control. Have me do the labor of the D-ranked mission while having Sasuke spar with you while using shadow clones to keep us in the dark. Not that training did much good. Sasuke will always be a sniveling little coward no matter what you do," said Naruto, who got a punch to the face for his words, and yet was not even affected by it. "Ow. What is your face made out of?" said Kakashi, as he tried to fight back the pain in his hand, and failed miserably. Kakashi. "Naruto, you have to understand that once the village sees your new appearance over what they know, not to mention the tale, many will assume the Kyuubi was involved, and call for your head," said the Sandame while Naruto's eyes narrowed at him. "That's not exactly shocking news, old man. Besides, you make it sound like I should care what they think, and do my best to appease the masses by being their punching bag," said Naruto while the Sandame looked grim. "You should care about them, Naruto. They are your people," said the Sandame while Naruto just laughed that echoed throughout the large room. "My people. That's where you're wrong, old man. They are not my people. If they were my people like you claim, I wouldn't be hated, I wouldn't be shunned, beaten, and brought near death so early on in my childhood. They are certainly not my people," said Naruto coldly while the Sandame looked at Kakashi, who nodded in understanding, and put a hand on the boy's shoulder. "I'm sorry, Naruto. I'm ordering your powers sealed away and your mind wiped of all these events. Within a month's time, you will be brought back to Konoha looking like you did before, and we will tell the other rookies that your change they witnessed here was the result of Orochimaru's doing that had dangerous aftereffects if left unchecked, said the Sandaime with Naruto's eyes narrowing at him. What makes you think I'll let you do all that? What even gives you the right to do it in the first place? Said Naruto while the Sandaime's face became a scowl. I am the Hokage of Konoha and you are one of its shinobi. My subordinate. My word is law and you will respect my decision, said the Sandaime in a more authoritative voice. You are a disgrace to your position, old man. You are not worthy of the hat and robes you wear, said Naruto before moving quickly and disabling Kakashi with quick spin strike to the Junin's ribs with his elbow. Fast. But not fast enough, thought Sandaime, as he moved quickly for a man of his age, and aimed for a pressure spot on the back of Naruto's neck. Only for Naruto to vanish from his spot and the Sandaime found himself unable to find him. Until Naruto laughed, which caused the Sandaime Hokage to look up, and saw the boy hovering over him with arms crossed with a cruel smile on his face. You must think I'm an idiot in just standing still and letting you do all that stuff to me. Fool. Make no mistake, I will be at the Chunin exam finals, I will fight Hyuga Neji, and when I do, his life will end, tragically, said Naruto before he was covered in a silver-like fire that was his energy, shooting up through the tower, out of the tower, into the sky, and then to Kami knows where. What do we do, Hokage-sama? Said Kakashi seeing the Sandaime Hokage-sai at this defeat. We must inform the councils and clan heads of this. I must also contact Jiraiya and tell him what has happened, said the Sandaime Hokage with Kakashi nodding. You did what was right, Hokage-sama, said Kakashi while the Sandaime shook his head in affirmative no. No. What I did was betray my late successor and his wife. I betrayed all they stood for and tainted their noble intentions in saving the village. Soon, Konoha will pay the price for its stupidity, said the Hokage before walking away and leaving Kakashi to his own thoughts on the matter. This would not end well. Kakashi was sure of it. Omake Naruto's apartment. Anko was at Naruto's apartment, people spying something flying to it that could only be Naruto, and decided to get some answers from the Gaki before reporting to the Sandaime. After what happened in the central tower, the old man would want answers, and willing to bet the third Hokage would give anything at the moment to know what happened to the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. So with that thought in hand, Anko was at Naruto's door, and gave a polite knock before counting to 10 when kicking down the door would be the next choice of action. However, before that even happened, the door opened, and Naruto opened the door with a raised eyebrow. What do you want? Said Naruto though he had an idea. Hey Gaki. Can I come in or would you prefer talking to me in hall where everyone can hear us? Said Anko seeing Naruto shrug and move away from the door to let her in. Come right on in Anko-san. I have nothing to hide, said Naruto while Anko did just that. How do you know my name? Said Anko with a question mark before Naruto shut the door. You told us after the written test, remember? Went through a window. Cut my cheek, said Naruto while Anko having that, ooh, look on her face. Right. Now I remember, said Anko now being sheepish. So why are you here? At the request of the old monkey to find out more about me by any means necessary, said Naruto seeing Anko shrug. More or less. Though I'm doing this more for my own curiosity since what I saw before the forest of death is completely different from the stud I'm looking at now, said Anko with a gleam in her eyes. So you're curious, huh? Just how are you planning to get information out of me? Said Naruto, as he saw Anko smirk at him, and remove her trench coat to let her bust behind the fishnet shirt barely conceal what the secondary bit of clothing did on a slightly better scale. I have my ways, said Anko, as she saw Naruto smirk further with his own eyes getting a gleam too. Then bring it, said Naruto while Kyuubi inside of him was giggling perversely and while unable to send her chakra into the seal to strengthen his power further, she could increase his pheromone output. Without further delay, Anko pounced on Naruto, and the young Uzumaki met the special Junin's challenge with joy. Many hours later, the door to Naruto's apartment opened and a shaky Anko stumbled out. Her clothing was disheveled, the skirt ridden up on one side, and the special Junin's hair looked like it had been in a hurricane. She had a glazed expression on her face, which was a mixture of satisfaction and tiredness that the kunoichi of the leaf had not experienced in a long time. Walking out slightly behind her was Naruto, who was wearing black pants, and shirtless at the moment with his tail waving about. Looks like I won Anko-chan. Remember, what happens in my home stays in my homes, and that goes for everything we did, said Naruto, seeing the woman nod slowly before giving the special Junin a tap to her butt with his tail, and she just mumbled to herself while walking home. Yes, Naruto-sama. What stays happens. Home. Rest, said Enko, as she made her way back to her own apartment, and ran into Kurenai. Enko. What in Kami's name happened to you? You look like you've just had a training session with Meta Guy in the middle of a sugar rush, said Kurenai, as she saw her friend walking like a zombie towards her home, and Enko letting out a giggle in the process. Good. Happened. Stays. Everything. Nap time, said Enko, as she entered her apartment, shut the door, and then used the last of her strength to collapse on the bed. She may not have gotten the information the Hokage needed, but damn did he know how to work her body, and Enko would need to have her energy tank refilled soon. All she needed was 2 weeks worth of rest, food, and lots of water due to dehydration would be settling in soon. Oh yeah. Enko was drained. In his apartment, Naruto was grinning like a madman, and looking at the black panties the woman left behind in her dazed-like state. There is more ways to achieving conquest than just fighting, said Naruto while Kyuubi just giggled like a crazy woman. Just you wait, Naruto-kun. When I get free, we're going to shake the planet, and it won't be from fighting each other, said Kyuubi, as she was in her more human form now, and cackling like a mad woman on a mission. End omake. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like for more what ifs and support the author. See you guys in the next video.